We know there is a crisis in our cities, but do we really know the crisis? Its dimensions, its attributes, how it affects real live human beings, how deeply, how passionately they and other people feel about it, what can be done, what is being done. The most important question immediately is the need for effective, independent community organization. The ultimate remedy must grow out of self-determining action. No person could introduce you to that subject better than the Reverend Mr. Arthur Brazier, who is president of the Woodlawn Organization.
To understand the real concept of power, there must be the understanding of the principles and practices and purposes of organization. For the only reason that people stand together is so that through organization, they can create a power instrument with which to realize their aims and aspirations.
I went to this meeting as a volunteer just to listen. And Brazier was there and the staff was there. And they were dealing with public schools and the fact that the public schools in Woodlawn and wherever black people were overcrowded. And the disparity was enormous. Clearly racism was here in the city of Chicago, alive and well here in the city of Chicago, in the north, not in the south, not in Mississippi, not in Alabama, not in Georgia, but in the city of Chicago, where you would expect racism not to be so profound and so present, but yet it was here. Superintendent Benjamin C. Willis, of course, was the representative of the racism that was associated with public education. And the action, of course, was to figure out what we were going to do about public education. Little did I know, behind the scenes, there were forces that were moving to do two things. One, to effect a massive boycott of public schools in the city of Chicago. Massive. And two, the same forces were working to bring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Chicago. Those forces that were working in the background included Edwin C. Bill Berry, who was then the executive director of the Chicago Urban League, Saul David Alinsky, who was the executive director of the Industrial Areas Foundation, and Reverend Arthur M. Brazier, who was the president of the Woodlawn Organization. They decided that they would put together a new organization to deal with public schools and related issues in housing and jobs, but also to bring Dr. King into Chicago. And during those days, there was significant discussion among the, quote, establishment in the city of Chicago, white primarily, and then to a certain degree, Negroes, because we were Negroes in those days, not black and not African American, as to whether or not Dr. King ought to be here. There's a lot of discussion. And bringing Dr. King from the south to the north was a matter of discussion, and also some, I would say, political conflict. And there were those who were part of the establishment, be they white or black, that did not want to see the boat rocked bringing Dr. King here. Yet the question was who could do it, and who could pull it off, and what would happen. The Urban League, led under the leadership of Bill Berry, thought that it wasn't really a challenge that the Urban League could do alone. TWO was just a baby of an organization. It was no more than, I would say, 3 years old when the issue of what to do about public education and bringing King into Chicago. So the decision was to create something all brand new and not worry about whether it be TWO or the Urban League. Both of them had their own issues. One of TWO had to figure out a way to live past infancy, and the Urban League had to deal with a multiracial board, many of that was populated with members of the establishment. And so the idea was to put together something called the Coordinating Council of Community Organizations, Triple CO. Well, who's going to lead Triple CO? Well, let's let this new face, independent, a face that was head of an independent organization called the Woodlawn Organization, let Brazier be the leader. And so Reverend Arthur M. Brazier became the first convener of the Coordinating Council of Community Organizations, which led to the most successful boycott of public schools anywhere in the country, even to this day. For those black schools that were overcrowded, the boycott was 98% effective. Literally shut down every public school that was overcrowded in the city of Chicago by the organizing effort of the Woodlawn Organization, Saul Alinsky, and under the able leadership of Arthur M. Brazier. That happened. It, I think, catalyzed the movement that brought an end to legalized segregation in the city of Chicago.
Real people of a community, their homes, their churches, their institutions, their frustrations, and above all, their determination for self-determination.